Bitcoin quantum risk, also Cardano quantum risk.
This is one of those Schrodinger's cat things where it's both a threat and not a threat. Yes, it's a threat. Yeah, Grover's and Shor's algorithm exists, and yes, you can use a quantum computer if it existed to create all kinds of shenanigans and chaos. Why am I not worried about it? Well, because it's a ubiquitous problem. Everybody has this problem. U.S. government with classified information has this
Banking
problem, right?
accounts.
Banking, everybody. So what does that mean? It means there's billions of dollars that have been spent to resolve the problem, and it's not a problem of technology. It's a problem of standards. We have the technology. We have hash-based crypto and lattice-based crypto and all these things. What I was waiting for was for the U.S. government through NIST to standardize crypto. So how it works is that NIST will get together and they'll say, this is the official block cipher of the U.S. government. This is the official signature scheme of the U.S. government. Then every U.S. government contract will mandate the use of those things if they need it, and they're called FIPS. And so FIPS 203, 204, 205, and 206 are the post-quantum FIPS. Now, what happens if you don't follow the FIPS? Well, here's what happens. All the hardware manufacturers, Apple and ARM and NVIDIA and AMD and Intel, they build specialized circuits inside their chips to accelerate the FIPS standards. So if you don't follow them, you don't get to use those specialized circuits, and you're 100 times slower than your competition, you see? So we knew the math. We knew the math as of like 2017. We knew how to defend against quantum computers. It was more of a question of, will the federal government finally give us some standards? Because once they have the standards, then everybody's going to start building hardware against it, and then you can adopt it. Okay. Then there's a question of, when do you adopt it? Well, here's the problem with lattice and hash-based crypto. It is slower and more space inefficient than elliptic curve crypto, okay? So what does that mean? It means that if you adopt lattices or hash, you are 10 to 100 times less throughput in your system. So if you're 1,000 transactions per second, maybe you're at 10 to 100 transactions per second now inside your system for the same amount of space and network utilization. So who wants to go and pay that tax first? Who's going to be the network to go and be like, we're trying to compete against Solana and Sui and all these other guys, and our strategy to compete against them is to be 10 times slower, 100 times slower than those guys.
That probably won't work.
Exactly right. To defend against this hypothetical quantum computer that will one day exist, right? Yeah. It'd be one thing if it existed today.
You may not, right?
But it doesn't. So then the other thing is anybody actually going to give you an honest answer about when and how a quantum computer is going to come in existence? DARPA got so angry they just threw in the towel, and they created something called QBI, the Quantum Benchmark Initiative at DARPA. It's a 3-stage program. And so far, 11 companies have survived phase A, and now they're entering phase B and C. But the question they're asking is, will any of these companies have a working, useful quantum computer by the year 2033? So if you want to follow that, you can look at the DARPA Quantum Benchmarking Initiative, and you can see all the different companies like IBM and Quantinuum and others that are competing. And you can look at the rigorous stuff they're setting. And by 2027, they're going to issue a report. So we'll have data from DARPA of whether they're actually going to be real or not. And if they are real, they'll be real by 2033. So I'm waiting for a little bit more data next year and the year after to decide how aggressive we want to be with quantum. But Midnight is already going down the post-quantum train. Lattice Fold and Neo, or lattice-based crypto systems, and the long-term privacy engine of Midnight is going to be a lattice-based folding system, and lattice crypto is immune to quantum computers for the most part. I'm not happy with some of the theoretical security. There's no universal quantum adversary modeling that exists in the system yet, and there's a lot of theoretical issues. And I just have to convince myself things look good. And I've spent enormous amounts of time recently dealing with like cyclotomic polynomials and all these weird finite fields and Goldilocks fields and other things, because I've been studying lattice fold extensively and doing knowledge soundness proofs and other things. And the theoretical foundations are rich but dangerous in that space. Another reason why post-quantum is a little scary is, while we have all the algorithms, we're not 100% certain that they're actually immune to quantum computers. And we're not 100% certain that they're secure, these algorithms. Typically in cryptography, your shelf life, you have to wait about 20 years to 30 years before you get comfortable with the crypto. So there's a wonderful paper, a friend of mine wrote it. He's the creator of elliptic curve crypto, Neil Koblitz, and it's called The Serpentine Path of Elliptic Curve Cryptography. So Neil, when he was at Harvard, he came up with elliptic curve crypto in 1985. But it wasn't until like the 2000s that people started adopting elliptic curve crypto. So he wrote this paper about the 20-year journey he had to go on to convince people that like elliptic curve crypto is a real thing and it's actually should be the dominant thing. And it had all these benefits. It's 10 to 100 times more efficient than RSA and much smaller proof sizes. And you have all these amazing algebraic properties of elliptic curves. It's like everybody acknowledged this was a good idea. It still took 20 years to convince people it was a good idea. So we have these lattice things and these hash things. The hash things are old, but the lattice things are relatively new. Like the module SIS stuff is very new and it's very cutting edge. And most modern cryptographers aren't well trained in this area because it's so mathy. And so they're like, yeah, that seems like it'll work, but we're not really sure. You know, I mean, kinda, I don't know. The other thing is most of that math actually doesn't come from trying to be post-quantum. It comes from something called fully homomorphic encryption. Craig Gentry created that with Dan Bonnet back in 2007. And it's basically operating on encrypted data without ever decrypting it. And they spend enormous amounts of time using lattice-based math for all that stuff. And it's in many cases 1,000 to 10,000 times slower than running it on silicon. So it's one of those things like we know how to do it. It's just not optimized.
Is it worth it to do it now?
Yeah, exactly. And again, what are we protecting against? Like this future hypothetical thing that'll exist. So what will end up happening, if I had to guess, is there's going to be continued mega investments into these things. Hardened implementations and schemes in theory will work its way in. And it'll be a layered model which uses both hash and lattice-based crypto until a winner is selected. And this is like the Blu-ray versus HD DVD type of thing. Two completely legitimate standards. You have Toshiba and Sony and all these other guys fighting each other. And eventually the market picks one. Blu-ray was this guy. So maybe the market will pick hash-based crypto. Those are the Starks and this other things. And that would be very sad if that happened. And that's what Vitalik wants because he's usually wrong with these things. And then, maybe the market will pick lattices and that's happy time. And everything's great. We have these beautiful algebraic properties and much more elegant proofs and so forth. But we'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's talk facts. Logical emotion. 听听这个节奏。Yeah， 每天2000则留言杂讯在扩散，有人来找答案，有人只想来暴乱，黑粉像是病毒瘫痪，运作的节奏躲在荧幕后的酸面像小丑在争斗，捏造风向说这里充满觥筹，但谁能忍受客厅每天被勒索碎透？面对无力的谩骂，难道要低头？为了保护心血，当然得换个说头。这扇门关上不是傲慢的表现，是为了设立守卫，画出清楚的界限。既然有人只想破坏，不想建设这一切，那就筑起付费墙，让恶意自动毁灭。别跟我谈什么信用折算，这世界的规则你根本没对准。若只抱着旧的图，想要找新大陆，强制动的转弯，在炫耀变勒住。这是一个指点看不懂的就等处，留下来的人才能看清楚日出。你们指责立场改变叫做人设崩塌，来看看真正的大人怎么玩着吧。Look at Trump， 以前马币是 scam， 说到一文不值是没价值的 spam， 现在变加密总统站在最前线，带着全媒起飞，这风向变得多鲜艳。Look at Vanguard， 是一角的金融帝国，5月还说 crypto 是泡沫不能触摸 ，CEO 换个人8月还在摇头 say no， 结果绿灯一辆手续费赚的直接 go。Look at strategy， 钻石手的神话，喊着永不卖币，听起来多么伟大，但只喊长出来说了现实的实话，遇到危机照样卖妹在跟你讲童话。政治金融信仰全都在松动，懂得变动的人才能在市场存活。你还抓着一句就承诺说这叫背叛，抱歉这种思维真的太过短暂。这里变了吗？对，这里变了，变得像川普，懂得抓住机会，变得像 Vanguard 顺应市场滋味，变得像 strategy 做好危机防备。如果因为换了锁你就气得像咱们，很遗憾你从来不是这屋里的人。别跟我谈什么信用折损，这世界的规则你根本没对准。若只抱着旧的图，想要找新大陆，强制动的转弯在炫耀变而住。这是一个指点，看不懂的就等处，留下来的人才问看清楚日出。BTC 也加上那张 A Day， 手牌摊在桌上，信仰从没变卦。这是长期的布局，陪着走过风沙，结果你亏了牵挂，没被带回老家。底有4个字，难道只是口号？成年人的世界没人给你依靠，投资不是家家酒，输了哭着要抱抱，把责任往外推，这逻辑真的太好笑。这里提供资讯不是替换的密码，巨婴心态不该永远是被割的筹码。 都转完了，Bank 卡转完了，Trading 也转完了，这里只是开了个会，你们在激动什么？Stay calm, stay rich.